right. I think this guy's been the talk of Twitter, talk of the internet, talk of the UConn fan base today. So I had to have him on tonight to take us through what's going on and give us the lowdown on it. So Jared Thomas, he's been on in the past. He's the executive director of Bleeding Blue for Good. So Jared, welcome to the podcast again.
Thanks for having me, man. It's not often I gotta call my friend Jared Kotler and tell him we need an emergency episode to cover the day's events. So yeah, happy to be on. Thanks for helping me do this.
Oh, you bet. You know it's important when you got two Jareds in one place together. So
That's what I try. Yeah, been trying to tell people.
So let's start with this. So you're the executive director of Bleeding Blue for Good, and now you're leading the way with this new venture that's been out there, Storrs Central. I know we've seen some drips of it online today. So take us through what's the future of NIL looking like, especially with this partnership with Storrs Central.
So this is going to be a little bit of a long-winded answer, but I think it's really important that UConn fans kind of understand the evolution of this thing. Um, I have long held the belief that the most effective collectives in the country right now have both a nonprofit and a for-profit model. The nonprofit model has a ton of benefits, right? At the beginning of this, um, NIL was almost said as a swear word. Like it was the death of college athletics, and people thought it was the worst thing that could ever happen. And it would remove parity. And what we've seen last year with a Final Four that has San Diego State and Florida Atlantic is like that's not the case. Parity exists. If anything, it's helped a lot of programs kind of resuscitate. So as we've been creating this going back a year and a half, the thought is how can we take this thing that is so controversial, people don't know how they feel about NIL, and how can we demonstrate the value that these athletes have by accomplishing the greatest amount of good with NIL? So the Bleeding Blue for Good model, started by John Malfettone and John Greenblatt, was really answering the bell of UConn athletics and coming to the table with this, the in the NIL collective space. And they decided to set it up as a 501c3. And what that did was allow us to take the marketing value of our UConn athletes and send them to partner with charities where their promotion of these charitable missions and the work that they're able to do and the impact they have just walking into a room with kids who look up to them as heroes would be something that the press shows up and adds value, marketing value for the charity. They promote it on social media, marketing value for the charity. It's been amazing. I think you can talk to any of our athletes. They love what they've been able to accomplish in the community. It's a win-win-win proposition. One of the best things about it, though, is that because we have such a wonderful charitable mission, our high net worth donors are able to have tax deductible donations. Well, in May of last year, despite all of these collectives that established this way, applying for 501c3 status and being given 501c3 status by the IRS wrote up, it was this internal memo and it wasn't published. It wasn't an official memo. It was like an internal memo that basically said, yeah, we don't know if we want these NIL collectives to keep having 501c3s. Now, no one's heard anything from them about this since, but and keep in mind, I already believe that the best collectives had a for-profit and a nonprofit. That kind of added this sense of urgency where if there ever is a day where the 501c3 status for NIL collectives goes away, we're going to have a for-profit alternative, not just close to being up and running, but already like viable, bringing in seven-figure revenue and uh, as a status quo that we can maintain to keep the train on the tracks, right? So that there was a huge sense of urgency on our part to do this, and then in contemplating like, okay, what for-profit route can we take that's actually going to convince people to buy it? So some of the initial attempts at subscription models around the country were, hey, get a bumper sticker, get a lanyard, get a shirt. There was different tiers of subscribers, but what collectives have that no one else has is this direct access to players and coaches. So, I will get to the Twitter army later, but I had Penfields come to one of our charity events and I had him bring his kids. And while we were running a clinic at the Boys and Girls Club, I took Penfield around and introduced him to each of the players, and they signed a basketball for Penfield's kids.
Yeah.
Like we we're able to deal in access because I work with the athletes daily. We talk to the coaches regularly. Um, and that is the thing that we needed to try to figure out how to monetize if we were going to come up with a successful for-profit model. So we birthed the idea of Storrs Central. And when I got here, I told you this would be a long-winded answer. When I got here, I realized very quickly that UConn doesn't have a one-stop shop fan site like a Rivals or a On Three or a 247. I know there's a UConn Rivals, but it wasn't super active. So we saw an opportunity where we could create a fan site that, yes, it has a forum, but more importantly, at the tier one level, for $9.99 a month, it's going to be constant, consistent beat coverage and writing about UConn sports that everyone wants to read anyway. But then we have the added benefit of it is so easy for us to make a phone call and get really good interviews. So we're working through UConn Athletics to submit media requests that we're the same guys they know that are running the NIL collective, and we're looking forward to using that access to provide the best coverage in the UConn universe for all of the UConn fans out there. I'll let you ask whatever questions next because I could just keep going for an hour on this topic.
Yeah, no, so you're I mean, I think you're leading in nicely to what I wanted to ask next, and that's just to kind of take us through what Store Central will be. I know you hinted at some of the things you were mentioning in terms of the content, but what can a user expect from it when they're visiting the site?
Yeah. So the metaphor that I keep trying to use is that I'm essentially trying to collect all the Infinity Stones to create this one-stop shop. So, there's recruiting info out there. Rivals has, long monopolized that marketplace for recruiting info. Well, we're really aware, very, very well connected to like who we're going after, what the recruiting targets are, and all of that. So you're going to have recruiting updates. You're going to have simple game previews and game updates. You're going to have the forum where there will be information that we have that our sources say is okay to post. I want to be clear, that we'll be able to share due to our level of access and familiarity with everyone involved in these staffs and rosters, and that'll be kind of your meat and potatoes of the experience. I'm really excited to say that not necessarily right away, but as we move forward, we're going to roll out tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, and tier 5. But before I get to those, you can go to texags.com, TEXAGS. That is a perfect example of kind of where we're trying to go with this. So fans who are interested, like, what is this going to look like? Go to Texags. They started doing this a while ago, and they are killing it down there. It is the destination for anyone in the Texas A&M space to go get their sports news. One thing I forgot to mention before that's super interesting is, in doing this, we considered a partnership with Rivals. We considered a partnership with On3. And when we were talking with On3, one of the things they said is that 50% of revenue per subscriber would have to go back to On3. Not only that, but they would keep the subscriber lists and contact information if they ever dissolved the partnership with us. So while we're trying to do this for NIL, like both of those things were kind of non-negotiables. We had great discussions with them, but that wasn't the route we wanted to go. So we partnered with F5 Sports, who also used to work with Rivals, and they had a software developer that was the head of this thing. He finally just said, "I'm going to create my own thing."
Yeah.
So we're the deal we ended up doing with them was significantly improved terms, significantly improved terms. We own the subscriber list and data, so now we can create an email list that makes us marketable to sponsors. We can send daily or weekly updates out to our email list. We can fill people in on the great stuff BBFG is doing, and then we can recap a lot of the articles that we post that week. And that's something we're really excited about. So that was a great deal. And then we went out and got the Storrs Central guys, who you are probably familiar with. We loved the name. We loved the stuff they put out on the UConn blog and in their newsletters. Amon has been kind of in this game for a while now. We thought he did a great job, and he was somebody we wanted to get, so we pulled him into the fold. And then we went and got Graham Chamberlain from Rivals, and he is a constant, consistent writer about UConn football. So between the Storrs Central staff's coverage of UConn men's and women's basketball and Graham's coverage of football, man, we're excited. And these are guys who know that the mission here is to get as much money as possible for the NIL effort. So we didn't have to go out and pay a yearly annual salary for a writer to poach them or bring them from somewhere else. Graham still has a full-time job. So Graham, in his capacity, was a wonderful addition for us because he gets what the goal is,
Mhm.
and he's able to contribute at a level that will be consistent for our readers, but then also doesn't take all of the money away from what the goal is here, which is funding NIL and helping UConn remain as competitive as possible for as long as possible. That's the gist of what people can expect. I think they're really going to like the stories. I don't want to leak it. But on launch day, we put some time into like what articles can we have up on launch day.
Yeah.
So there's a new staff member over on the football staff, and you'll potentially see an interview with that new staffer, and I think it'll get football fans really excited. Um, we're still working on it, but we're trying to get a feature on one of the assistant coaches for UConn men's basketball that I think everyone's really going to like. We're still working on it, but we've got a couple of player features that we'd like to write for men's and women's basketball. So on launch day, you're already going to have some great new articles that I think if we had like tweeted them out individually, maybe would have gone viral anyway, because everyone's going to want to read this content.
Yeah.
And again, this whole thing was, I need people to contribute to NIL. We really need to get the grassroots effort going. We all need to come together, every UConn fan around the country, and show that we have the best fan base that can raise the most money. But to do that, asking for donations is hard. So what can we give them in return that they're actually going to see value from? And then not only make that first donation, but stick around, because we've proven to them that the information we have, the articles we write, the videos we produce are all things they're going to want to digest as content.
So you talk about the NIL component, obviously a major, kind of goal here and vision for Storrs Central. How does the site benefit NIL directly?
Yeah, so this is one of the things we're the most excited about. Um, we're going to work hand in hand with UConn compliance on this. As always, we make sure that we're not putting UConn in any sort of bad spot. So know that until we iron all of this out with UConn compliance, these are the theories. But as a for-profit entity, there is a lot of increased flexibility with how you can maneuver in the NIL space. As a nonprofit, we not only answer to the NCAA, but we also answer to the IRS. And in doing so, we have to find market value, and we have to be able to show that there's a demonstrated impact for the charity commensurate with the amount that we're paying athletes. These for-profit entities at other school have so much increased flexibility because hypothetically, and we would not ever do this because now you're approaching pay for play basically. Hypothetically, we could pay a player $100,000 to sign one basketball. Again, I want to be very clear. That is an extreme example. We would never do that. But the for-profit doesn't have to answer to the IRS. So we can structure endorsement deals with the athletes that are more holistic and can be year long. And then they would be able to promote Storrs Central. They could come onto our message boards and do mailbags or questions and answers with subscribers where, hypothetically, we could have Cam Spencer, we could give him an account for a day, have him come onto our message boards and answer questions directly from our subscribers. And so when you start to look at how this is going to work, we're going to come up with a package where, okay, so you're going to promote us on social media. We have the rights to use your name, image, and likeness on our website to advertise and promote. We're going to do 3 or 4 pieces of video content with you throughout the year. The one of the NCAA rules is that they can't do NIL activities while they're on the clock. So I can't say, hey, after the game, come talk to us, do your post-game interview with us and not anybody else, and I'll pay you money to do that. So that kind of stuff's not going to happen. But there's between the Q&As and these things, I think there's a lot of opportunities. One of the coolest things, though, is that all of these fan sites at every school around the country get sponsorship deals. And so our inventory for sponsorship deals, well, yeah, it'll be inclusion in our newsletter. It'll be, maybe we'll name the message board, the Better Get Us Now board, sponsored by that, name a company. I'm not going to give them free plug on your podcast, but sponsored by so and so. That'll definitely be things that will be appealing to companies as we grow in subscriber numbers and our email list gets bigger, and that's great. But the kicker is that we can essentially, since the players know us, trust us, believe in us, we can act as an agent on behalf of the player, not literally an agent, but like we can broker a deal where, and again, I'm not going to name company names, but say a national brand is interested in doing a deal with a player, or a Connecticut company who wants to reach a Connecticut audience, wants to increase their marketing across the state, they'll come to us, they'll get inventory on the site, and then also we can set it up where the athlete can do a commercial or just a social media promotion. Already we got a sponsor, and this will come out soon, but it's nutritional supplements,
Hmm.
right? So what they want, and they're, I'm not going to say numbers, but we're doing a sponsorship with them already, and we'll just use round numbers. So like 10% of that is going to come to Storrs Central, where we will then use that to fund these endorsement deals that I've talked about with the site. But they wanted 3 players to taste test their protein powder. So they're big on TikTok.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do 15-second videos with 3 players where they taste test this protein powder for the company, and like, hey man, what's it taste like? Do you like it? How is it? I send that video to them. We will then pay each of those 3 players on behalf of the company. So the players are going to get direct proceeds from the company that did the sponsorship deal with us. And the company will be activated on storescentral.com and on our app. So it's this kind of thing where like everything we're doing, we're just trying to get enough synergy that we can continue to be at the forefront of NIL initiatives nationwide.
Yeah.
And then when an athlete's looking around trying to make a decision, like, oh my gosh, UConn's been at the forefront of this from the beginning. It's a no-brainer. I'm going to go there. They're going to help me activate my own personal brand. I can be a part of Storrs Central. Bleeding Blue for Good is offering NIL opportunities for charity work. And now we think we have like a holistic ability to best show what UConn has to offer for athletes in terms of NIL opportunities.
Yeah, no, interesting package there, and I think it gives these athletes a really good opportunity there to capitalize on their name, image, and likeness. So excited to see what you've got planned and where that comes and where that goes. Rather, I'll wrap with this one here, and I'll let you be as long or short-winded as you want to, because this was the controversy of the afternoon and evening here on Twitter, and that's is UConn Twitter is the boneyard because of Store Central? Are those types of places going away? I'll give you the floor to answer that one.
Yeah. So no, the shortest answer is no, they're not. The coolest thing about what happened today is that I think a lot of people probably thought that we paid all of these Twitter personalities to promote what we're doing. Please keep in mind that these are all diehard UConn fans, all of them. So what actually happened was I reached out to them and explained to them what we're doing and why it is so critically important to the NIL mission at UConn. And the message was very simple. Like, if you want to hunt for championship number 6, if after we get number 6, you want to go for number 7. On the women's basketball side, we're in the double digits now. So if you want to keep stacking on that, if you want to be competitive for the highest recruits in the country, this is the way that not only can we provide an insurance policy on the nonprofit, but also double our efforts while they're both in existence. So we're still going after major donations, but we're also getting the for-profit added benefit. This is what we have to do. And in explaining what the site's going to be and how it's going to benefit athletes, exactly like I've done here, they were all sold immediately. No questions asked beyond what is it? How's it going to work? Why are you telling me? Why should I help you with this? They made that decision on their own. I didn't have to like induce our Twitter personalities to like do this. I didn't have to pay them money. We didn't have to offer them anything. It's such a logical thing that needs to happen. It is a no fail task. It's something that I said all day yesterday and today, that They immediately said they were all in. So we set them up with their premium accounts ahead of time. And then I said, I'd like you to post, if you're in with us, I'd like you to post a welcome message on the board. I don't want to feed you anything. I'm not going to tell you what to say. You know what we're trying to do here. So in your own words, tell people why you think this is important. So they wrote their own messages. Some of them were incredibly eloquent and explained it really well. Some of them were kind of rallying cries. Mr. Hotball said something like, "I already hacked the site, guys. What's up?" And that's with him. That's all I needed him to do. And then they screenshotted it and posted it, like letting them know, like, "Hey, this is the initiative. We're trying to get everyone in the same boat, rowing in the same direction. We as a fan base can come together as like the UConn mob and do something great." So I saw a lot of confusion today that like people think these guys, it's like it's their site. No, it's a partnership with Bleeding Blue for Good. We're a name that you all know and trust. We have been doing charity work in the community. We have been um, working so hard to make this NIL collective the best in the country. So it's not their site. It's not going to be a message board just run by them. It's literally for everyone. They're not the ones writing the content. The Storrs Central writers are. Graham Chamberlain is. Now, we may let some of them guest write on our site. There may be a point where if I can convince one of them, like, hey, I want you to do like a weekly thread on the message board where you get the pregame, you get the postgame, you offer your thoughts on this. We talked to the guy. I'm not going to name names yet. We'll let people wait and see. But there are people with like niche. There are guys who do the scholarship grids. There are guys who there's the Husky and the pros guy. Like we're talking to everyone, saying not stop posting your stuff on Twitter, but hey, when you post it on Twitter, you can embed that in our message board. So I'm not saying stop using Twitter. Twitter's going to die. I'm saying we're trying to put all this stuff in one place. So while you're checking out the article, you can pop over to the message board, see some of the same stuff that your favorite Twitter personalities would have been posting anyway. And that's where we can go with that. And regarding the Boneyard, man, they've been around forever. We love the Boneyard. We respect the Boneyard. This isn't meant to be some massive competition where we're trying to steal or destroy anything. It's not a war. We have a very simple mission here, and that is raise as much money as possible for NIL. So my hope is that on March 18th, everyone comes to Storrs Central and subscribes for $9.99. Give us the first month to show what we've got and try to. We're still. I mean, I'm the executive director for BBFG. We're doing a lot here, but let us show you what we've got. And if you like it, stick around with us and know that we're trying to send every single cent we possibly can from this post expenses, which we're trying to keep as low as humanly possible. We're trying to send every cent to the athletes. So come for that reason. And then hopefully the content and the access is good enough that you want to stay. And when we talk about, and I'll tease very quickly what some of the other tiers are going to be. So that's $9.99 a month. When we talk about tier 2, it's going to be some increased content. Again, we're still clearing all of this with UConn Athletics. We're trying, everyone needs to be on the same page. So I'm not making any promises here, but we're looking at doing like a Sunday post game with Coach Moore, 100-yard walks with players, a coordinator's corner where they break down strategy. There may be a world where, and again, with his permission, we get Luke Murray on, and he does a chalk talk with a whiteboard and breaks down one of the sets they put in recently. Now, we wouldn't want him to give away any like secret information for opposing teams, but like we want to try to provide as much access as possible. And the coaches want and need us to be successful as well. So when we talk about tier 2, pending, again, approval from everyone involved, we're looking at almost like a premium plus level of content. You start talking about tier 3, now we're going away from media content to like actual access. So tier 3, we're talking about Zoom calls, moderated Zoom calls with coaches and players, where those who subscribe at the tier 3 level can get on a Zoom with UConn coaches and players and ask their questions there and actually get to interact with them in a very exclusive behind closed doors setting. And that's a level that you can't get that anywhere else. We talk about tier 4, you're looking at more like in-person events, game day access. We'll probably try to do things like tailgates, different autograph sessions where we'll offer, show proof of your Storrs Central subscription and you get to come to this autograph signing. Like all of these things are on the table. Right now, we're just on a collision course with March 18th, trying to get this thing out the door because we would be insane not to launch this thing while both teams are about to enter the NCAA tournament with incredibly high hopes. Like we want this to be the gathering place during the tournament. We want it to be the news source during the tournament. So that's why we're launching it now. And then just stay tuned and watch what we continue to roll out. Because I'm not gonna stop until I've thought of every single possible idea I could possibly come up with. I'm going to solicit ideas from fans because it's all of us trying to move this thing together. So if somebody has an idea, if Jared Kotler has an idea that he thinks, he could contribute to Storrs Central that people would be interested in buying, and I'm like, yeah, dude, we have to do that. We're going to roll with that idea because I just want to keep making this thing better until we are hands down the best, have the most NIL money, can continue to win championships every year and do what we do.
Fine. I'll do an autograph signing if that's what you're trying to get at. No, I'm just kidding.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah. Yeah. Day
Um,
one, it's going to be like, hey, you sign up one day only. You sign up, you get to go to an autograph session with Jared Collins.
just what everyone wants. So we've been talking a lot about the different components here of Store Central, what it'll look like, the types of content, levels, things like that. So I guess just to sum it up here, what's the goal of this and what success looks like for you at Store Central?
Yeah, man, we hear all the time, people are confused by NIL. They don't know where to donate. They don't know how to donate. Um, One of the biggest concerns that people always have is like they know some of the numbers that get thrown around in the NIL industry. So they say like, what is my $10 going to do? Like all I can afford is $10 a month. I want to contribute to NIL. I care more about this team than anybody. But my $10 isn't going to move the needle. So success for us here, and the way that I want people to start thinking about this is don't view it as like my $10. View it as being one of X number of subscribers. So our goal from the beginning, and we've talked a little bit about the tiers, would be 4,000 tier one subscribers. We'd also like 1,000 subscribers at tier two, which will end up being like $25 a month. And if we can hit those numbers, you can do the math. And again, we'll have some expenses, but pre-expense revenue from 4,000 subscribers at the tier one level, you're looking at like $40,000 a month of a contribution from us, like you and me, the mob, the regular everyday UConn fan. We have the ability to come together, and yeah, there are high net worth people that we're going to keep trying to track down and convince them to donate to the cause. But we want to say too, we the everyday fan, and if we can all come together and put up $40,000 a month to the NIL effort, I mean, my goodness, man, like talk about making an impact. So then when you talk about 4,000 subscribers at $10 a month and 1,000 at 25 a month, like
Looks good. Yeah.
start doing that math and start realizing that if we actually can tap into the entirety of Husky Nation and get everyone on board with this, then we can put up just as much money as some of the high net worth folks can, and potentially even more. So
Yeah.
that I think those are the two numbers I want people to get in their minds. If anyone's heard this and wants to help, like go get everyone you can possibly find. Let's find 4,000 UConn fans to subscribe to this thing, because now how do I donate? Where do I donate? It's not a donation. We're going to give you stuff in return. Everyone, $10 a month, 4,000 of us together, riding strong, Storrs Central. This is the move.
I guess once the season's over, I could sacrifice one of my Chick-fil-A lunches
There you go,
in
man. I'm going to
exchange
take the
for
bus to work one day
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on to break down a lot of these questions that have gone on and been going out there for the past few days since word started to get out about Star Central. So really appreciate you taking some time to come on. I think this will be really informative for everyone, and excited to see what the future looks like for you guys. So again, appreciate it. Always like having you on, and I'm sure we'll have you back on at some point in the future.
Hey,
When we bring the two Jareds together, usually some pretty good content.
good stuff happens, man. Yeah. Hey, the last thing I'll say is this. We're sprinting towards the March 18th launch date, but I'm not hard to find. Um, I do my best to answer tweets that come my way. Um, I think my DMs are open on Twitter. I'll make myself available on the Storrs Central message boards as we roll this thing out, and I'll be active on there. So if there are questions people have, I'd love to answer them. So this isn't the only like infomercial we're gonna do. I'm accessible. I just might not be accessible until March 19th because this is an all-out sprint trying to make this thing happen. So
So no sign up and you buy him a beer at the Big East tournament this week. That's not in the cart. No, just kidding.
I am going to try to meet as many people as possible, and I might just wear a shirt that says "Join Storrs Central." I don't know.
There you go. There you go. Nice advertising there. But Jared, as always, appreciate it and thanks so much for coming on.